will be.
Yeah. They got to go through. Let me do this. Ta-da-da.
Do-do-do-do. Tally ho!
Hello. Anybody there? Anybody there?
Hello. Well, the replay people will be here.
Replay people will be here. Replay.
I'm in Mariposa, California, looking out over. I'm like on a hilltop at a cat litter plant.
Cat litter plant. That sounds like so much fun. Good morning, Karen and Angie and Patty.
Hello, everybody.
Usually I go like this, but you can't see me, so I have to go in closer. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
I can't see the chat, so. Oh,
okay. So what we got going on today, because with us, it's always every day is a new adventure. Hey, Mateo, good morning. What we're doing today is, because I have to work this afternoon. Of course, we set this whole thing up for 3:00 every Sunday afternoon, and then immediately I had to work. I've got this weird little job that is only once in a while, and it is, I never know when it's going to be. And of course, right off the bat, it was the first week. And not only do I never know when it's going to be, I never know what day it's going to be or what time it's going to be. So I work for a theater. So it's whenever they have a production is when I'm going to work. And so 3 or 4 or 5 times a month, I'm going to work for them. And so at the beginning of the month, they're going to send out, and it didn't used to be the beginning of the month. That's something new that they're just now letting us know at the beginning of the month what that month's schedule is going to be. And so before that, it wasn't even that organized. So now I will know next month what it's going to be. So I'll have a little more organization with that in theory. So right off the bat, and I didn't remember until after we had agreed to this, but I'm like, yeah, I'll work Super Bowl Sunday because, I don't care about the Super Bowl. I know. I
had to ask Gugu who was playing today.
Well, I didn't even know. But not only that, I didn't realize today. I mean, I knew Super Bowl was coming up. I didn't realize it was this today day. And so the other day, my daughter was saying, Super Bowl. And I'm like, okay, so when is that? And she's like, tomorrow, Sunday. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm working tomorrow because, anywho, that's why we ended up having to change the time in such a short time frame. And then, of course, Miss Dana, being a truck driver, is having some kind of thing going on where she is right now. And
so I'm trying to get checked out of this circus. I need a longer cord here. Yeah, I'm trying to get off this merry-go-round up here on top of the world and get back up the road. Okay, so let's undo that one. Put this one over here. Hopefully, I'm hoping I've moved, we can slide those those axles up and down the trailer in the back to get ourselves legal, but I may be so overweight back there, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. I may be in a bad position as far as the weight of my trailer this morning. I may have to have a rework or something. We'll see. I'll find out as soon as I get up to the guard shack. So what did you learn, Robbin? Yeah. What have you learned?
What have I learned? Thank you so very much for joining us this morning for the weekly edition of Dana and Robbin Go to School. As you may or may not remember, this is the weekly update of what we are learning. I am taking a class. We are each taking a class through the Salina Baca's American Crochet Association. I got it right.
You got it.
American Crochet Association. And just so you guys know, I sent Miss Salina an email the other day to ask her a question. She's very responsive when at least she has been for me when I've sent her and asked her questions about this, that, and the other thing. And she was just tickled pink that we were doing this little thing on Sunday. Doesn't mean she's going to watch it, but she was tickled pink that we were doing this.
Hi, Salina.
And, hi, Salina. And so it was fun to be able to talk with her and let her know we were doing this. Or she could be going, oh, dear God, what are they doing to my brain?
Yeah.
There's that as well.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I did get to let her know that we were doing this. So she may or may not pop in and watch one of these, maybe catch it on a replay, but that was fun. But I'm taking the beginning, and it's very, very beginning crochet class. And Miss, oh dear God.
My name's Dana.
Thank you. Because what popped into my mind was
Darla.
No, Morgan. Miss
Morgan. Oh, now that's a compliment too.
Miss Morgan here. Yeah.
You can call me Darla. You can call me Morgan.
Miss Morgan over here. Miss Dana over here is taking the
Yarn Mastery
class. And both of us are learning tremendous amounts of information. Now, again, mine is very, very, very beginning class, as if I had never touched a hook or piece of yarn in my life. And yes, Patty's introducing herself to you. And I am
Patty Golden.
Patty Barker.
Oh, Patty Barker. Okay. We got a couple of Patties.
Yeah, we do have today we only have Patty Barker in here. Even though it is very, very beginning, I don't think a week has gone by that I have not learned something. And, as last week was such a surprise where we were talking about the different ways of holding hooks. And I was stunned at what I learned. So this week, our class was making a chain. So we're actually putting hook to yarn and creating something. I made chains last night using her method, and I don't think it created anything differently. I did not hold my hook the alternative way like we talked about last week. And I know if I had, my chain would have been different, but I'll be honest, I was actually in the process of working on my flower garden, and I didn't want to stop doing that and really focus on doing something different. So
here's something I'd like to interject. We're not above practicing a chain.
No, not at all. Not at all. And
we've both been crocheting for a minute. We've made a few chains.
A few.
But there is nothing wrong with us. Okay, let's do the exercise, being thorough.
And not only doing the exercise and being thorough, let's remember the appropriate way to count stitches. I don't know about you. How many times have you had to stitch up 250 stitches and counted it 45 times because you were off?
Yeah.
I always do more than what I think I have because I don't want to get to the end and be too short. I would rather have extra than be too short.
Then undo it, and then to undo it at the end. Yeah. That's why I don't make that slip knot very tight.
That's correct.
I want it even. I want everything even, the same tension, but not so tight that I can't get in there and undo it and get to my correct chain count. Plus, there's stitch markers.
There's stitch markers. And y'all, did you know, and I can't tell you how because I can never remember and I have to look it up each and every time. If you don't have enough, make sure you got a little bit of a tail on the end there is a way to add chains at the end if you're short. Yeah. I don't remember how, because you guys know I have zero memory for anything. But there is a way. If you get yourself, you've got 400 chains and you're short 2, there is a way to add that on. But
and I'm sure there's a YouTube video on that.
I know there is, because I've had to do it.
Or 20.
But we did learn the anatomy of a chain, which means the anatomy of the stitch and what you count and what you don't count, and how to look at that stitch and how to break it down, you know, all the parts, because there are 3 parts to the stitch on every chain. So yeah, it was interesting. And again, I did not feel like it wasn't something that I got something out of.
Right.
Yeah. And she did tell us what we're doing next week. So I do know what I'm going to be doing next week, which normally I did not know. So next week we're doing half double crochets.
Whoop, whoop.
And you know what's funny? Half double crochets, and I've told you guys this before, half double crochets is one of those stitches where I'll be going, do, 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 do. Am I doing this right? And I will have to stop and look up and make sure I'm doing it right, even if I've just done 400 of them.
Yeah, I have to stop and make sure I'm not doing a double crochet.
Yes. Or did I just do a single crochet?
Right. What did I do?
What am I doing here? So I'm very interested to see how she does it, and am I doing them right? So I'm looking forward to that one too as well. So I definitely feel like I got something out of this. It was nice to see the breakdown of the anatomy of a chain. And did you guys notice I said that next week we are going to start with a half double and not with a single crochet? I do know that Salina feels, and other instructors feel, a single crochet is harder to learn than some of the other stitches, and they rarely will start a beginner with a single crochet. They go from a chain to, usually I've seen a lot of them go from a chain to a double. So, but we're going from a chain to a half double. Now I know Miss Dana, if she's teaching somebody, you're chaining a lot before you do anything else.
My method, and not, Salina, I totally give props to her. She is the expert. With me, it was muscle memory. I go back to my own learning path. And with me, it was muscle memory. So I teach, we're going to chain 100 and then you're going to rip it out. And you do that once a night while watching TV or whatever, chain 100 and then just pull it out and put it away. Do that for a week. And then the next week class, we're going to go back into that chain with something, because we get some muscle memory going. You get more comfortable with the way you're holding your hook.
Manipulating the yarn. I find the way she holds her yarn really interesting.
How does she hold hers?
I've never seen anybody hold her yarn the way she holds it. And I don't know that I could do it like that. And I haven't tried to, because my hand, I don't even think about it. I pick it up and I do this little flippy around thing. Can you guys see the flippy around? Okay. So I wrap it around my little finger. Let me just do it, because I can't. Okay. So I wrap it around my little finger and then I put it in front of these 3 fingers. So it's like that. Yeah. And then I pinch it with these 2 fingers, and this finger kind of does that sort of thing.
Right.
That's my wiggle finger.
Okay. So the working end comes over my little finger, under my 2 middle fingers, and then over, I'm like this. So that I hold like this. And of course, yes. And I tension with my index finger and I hold with my 2 middle fingers. Okay. So I only wrap around the little finger if I'm using thread, because that's a tighter tension.
So you're doing it basically like this. Okay. You know what she does? she basically is just like this. She's just holding it in her hand and like this. And
Interesting.
I just can't even do that. I can't. No, she must be.
I like having a little bit of resistance through my fingers. I don't want a lot. That's why I don't wrap it around my little finger, because to me my tension is about how tense my hands are. Yeah. And I have to relax my hands.
I can't even.
And then I use
it like that. I can't even. Yeah. I automatically. I'm going just like this to hold it like that. I'm just like. Now
as long as it works.
She hasn't really talked about doing that much, and I'd have to look. Let me look at a picture. Let me look at a picture here real quick and see. I have a little headache right there.
Do you need some moonshine?
I do. I need some apple pie.
I found it.
Yes, real apple pie, not the way just so you guys know, I joke a lot about drinking. I don't drink anymore. I don't even drink. I'm not in recovery. I'm not doing 12 steps. I'm just not interested anymore. But I don't.
He is none of those things.
So I don't have a problem if anybody else drinks. To me, it was a headache and 3 days to recover, and yeah. But I am binge watching Moonshiners right now.
Okay, chain stitch. Oh, I was completely wrong, as per usual.
Okay.
Hey, Timmy. Hi, Timmy. Twisted Zones. Good morning.
Hi, Tammy.
I'm trying to get my internet is like, oh, you want to look at something? You'll do that on my schedule.
Right. You do that not on your time, on my time. Yeah.
When I decide it's time for you to look at something, that's when you'll look at something. So when it chooses to let me look at it, then we'll look at it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's not like this at all. It's something completely different. It was like, but it's not at all like I do it. But that's okay, because everybody holds their stuff different. And I remember watching, now you'll remember, what's the name of the two Swedish guys? Who's the two Swedish guys?
Oh, Carl and Carlos and Arnie. Carlos and Arnie.
They hate the way I hold my yarn. They're like, I'm going to come and break your fingers if you hold it like that, which is the way I do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny.
Come on over. Come on over. Come break my fingers. Come on over. I would love to see them.
That's what she's doing. That's what she's doing. It's super, super simple. And I just like, okay, so she's got her hook like this, and she's literally holding, she just sticks her two fingers up and sticks the yarn between it. And I'm like,
okay.
I don't feel like I have enough control.
Yeah, and it's all about, and after she's done it since she's a child, she's probably got a lot of control doing that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, I might could do that if I wrapped it around my little finger. Yeah, I could do that. Oh, I could totally do that.
Yeah.
But what she's doing here is she's holding onto her hook and needle with these two, and she's controlling it like this. So yeah, there's a lot of control like that. That feels okay. But I have to have it around my little finger.
Yeah.
I could not just, I feel like I have no control like this. Yeah. And even my stitches are flopping all around. No, I could not do that. But every person does it different. And when you're learning, you do whatever works for you. That's one of the joys of crocheting or knitting or any of those things. Unless you've got, not going to be PC here, not being appropriate here, unless you've got the Nazi knitting lady like I had.
Oh yeah,
my Nazi knitting lady that kicked me out of her class because I was left-handed. Not a joke. You do whatever works for you,
right?
And get you comfortable. Now Arnie and
Carlos
and Arnie, they've got a very, very good point, which is if you hold it the way I'm holding it, you're creating a lot more tension in your hand and your muscles, and you're going to end up with carpal tunnel. You're going to end up with repetitive injuries. And that's why they want you to not do that. That's why they want you to hold it with less of this.
Right. Less tension.
Which, that's what I do.
I've got right in here. I've got a problem.
You do. And I've already had carpal tunnel over here. So those are things I need to be aware of. Do I?
I have to pinch that knot in there and it hurts.
Yeah.
Just steady pressure and
So Miss Amber holds hers the same way that you do.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a cute face. Let's put that on your Facebook.
Let's make that
We'll make that.
My chiropractor used to do that to me. At the end of every session, I'd like hold out my hands and he'd put just enough, and it's not a lot of pressure, but it hurts. Oh, put me to my knees.
Me is in my right here. I get so tense here and here that I literally had to go for physical therapy and could not crochet for 6 months.
Something I watched on a Salina Baca live 2 or 3 years ago. She was up on a panel like this with somebody else, and they talked about posture and having your elbows rested either on the table in front of you or your arm rested. So having pillows there really makes a difference.
That's why you guys will often see me doing this. So right, sitting up straight.
Sitting up straight, feet flat on the floor, and you try to get it's the same way with driving. I try to get from my thigh to my knee fairly level, and if anything is lower, my knee is just that much lower, and I have to have good rest for my elbows next to me, which we've talked about how I don't really have that with my armrest being clear out here. But that is something that Salina and one of her great guests were talking about was, being careful of those repetitive injuries.
Yeah. And I know you and I have talked about this, but when we were in the motorhome and I did not have a good setup, I used a breastfeeding pillow because it wraps around your body and it's got that perfect, because that's what it's for. It's for you to have that thing. What are those things called? Boppies? I think it's called a boppy. But I borrowed one from one of the grands because, those days are long gone. And in fact, we didn't have such a thing when I was doing that stuff 50, 100 years ago. We just crammed pillows around us. But I borrowed a boppy and used it because I wanted to borrow one before I went and bought one. And it really helped. Plus, if you had a big, heavy project, it sat on there too. And it took the weight of that off of here as well.
And that's something we learned, those of us who did a bunch of hooked on sunshine patterns, was not to let your big project hang from your hands. Rest that so that you don't have downward pressure on your working area of that project. And the weight of that can, after a while you're holding that up, that can affect your shoulders and arms and your hands.
Not only does that affect this, it affects your project. The weight of that yarn is pulling on the that's one of the reasons I do not enjoy Tunisian, because you've got the whole weight of that blanket on a hook this big. And I don't care.
You need a place to rest that.
Mr. told me the other day that I cover my mouth on here when I talk a lot. I don't think I do. I think I put my hand down here. But he said I'm doing this. If you catch me doing this, yell at me because I don't notice that I'm doing it. So,
I don't want you guys to smell my trucker breath.
Yeah, I do that. But if I happen to take a bite of something, but I think I'm doing this. So if I cover my mouth and you can't hear me clearly, yell at me. You guys have no problem yelling at me for stuff I do. So he brought that to my attention the other day.
Okay. So, we're watching you now.
Nothing new, right? Nothing. Babe, would you mind heating that up for me a little bit? Did you fix his leg?
No, but I'm going to.
Oh, okay. Let me show him what I'm talking about. I have this teddy bear, and no, Max, no.
That's not a Chewy, Max.
It's not a Chewy. I have this bear, and this bear is so old. Look at him.
Oh.
He is. I know Max is really interested. I just want to check.
Well, because that looks like a Chewy, Mom.
Yeah, it does. This bear is in the neighborhood of 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother has had it as long as I can remember. And there's his little arm. It's got a little hooky thingy.
It's got a socket. Yeah.
And it has come undone. And we've tried multiple times to get it fixed, and it never stays on. So he has decided that's his project today.
That cleaning up the yard.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, everybody has their roles. Everybody has their job.
Yeah.
Got a position to play on the team.
That's right. So, that I cannot believe we haven't lost the arm year after year after year. That thing has gone from location to location, body and arm.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I love that bear. And I can't even remember the story behind it. It's always been at my mother's house, always. So
yeah.
But she's had it since she was a little. So.
Well.
So
do I know what I learned?
And
okay.
What she had us do, you said you did 100 every night, and she had us do groups of 20.
Okay.
5 times. Same concept. And then make sure
then it's counting.
Count it, and I think it was probably because it's easier to count to 20 than 100.
Well, and I would always, in my world of teaching crochet, I would always defer to Salina. I would always defer to her.
Right.
I don't think I've come across anything where I said, I don't think so. And I'm not afraid to say that.
No.
But
we're aware.
I'm going to defer to Salina when it comes to true expertise and knowledge. So that's why I'm taking her classes.
That's why I'm taking her classes. And that's why I have no problems 50 years into crocheting taking a beginner crochet class. And again, I have learned something every single week.
If I refused to take a beginner crochet class, I would look at me and say, Dana, you're pretty arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, and it doesn't mean you're going to learn something every week, but you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn
but there's, I mean, when it comes to chaining, there are a lot of things, even beyond what Salina taught you in this class, that we're learning as we go along. The class I just took, you chain so many and then you go back along with single crochet. And there was nothing in the class. She did not confuse our minds with going into that third loop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I love the look of it when I discovered that, thanks to
third loop, right?
Yes. How beautiful the edge of that project looked going through the third loop. Okay, now that we're past the 9:30 mark, I'm pulling up to check out. Finally, I've been sitting here for a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So, but I will talk about gauge here in just a minute. I'm gonna
gauge. How important?
Yes,
and question. We had a thank you, Timmy. People use nursing pill. Yeah, nursing pills to support while crocheting and knitting. Patty, that's a really good thing to do. And I was especially telling Miss Dana about that because she is sitting in a driver's seat many hours a day that is not made for somebody of her stature. And because of the seat, and there you see her seat, it's made to work for a large man. She is a teeny tiny. I had the pleasure of meeting up with her a few weeks ago, and I still have not posted that video. I will, but that seat, she can't touch the armrest. It's so wide. And I was telling her that one of those pillows would be probably a good thing for her to try, because it'll fit right around her waist and it will have support right for her arms. Even when she's driving, she can turn it around forward so that the front is, it's sort of a C. And then if she wants to put it backwards so she's sitting more forward, she can. But when she's crocheting, she can flip it around and then have the support in the front for her project. And that might be a really good thing for her, because she needs more back support and arm support while she's driving. And that would work for both things. I don't have one of those here.
This one is the one that we have in
No, it's
it's just a big,
I'm talking about it's just a little round one.
Yeah.
It's a breastfeeding
like
pillow.
this.
Yes, exactly like that. Yeah, chuck that over to me. So it's this big, these neck ones that we all see. It's the basic idea, but they're bigger and you put it around your waist. So she could do it this way and use it behind her back while she's driving, and then this way and use it around her front when she's crocheting. So it's the same basic idea as that. And so that's something that would probably help her a great deal. And I find that when I'm crocheting, I have to have something on this, because this is the side that I get a lot of pain from. And so I will often have a pillow on this side. And on the couch that I sit in all the time, the armrest is this high. It's one of those really high. And you can see how low I sit on this thing. And so I don't have any support on either side of me. So yeah, using pillows and getting a good support system is super important when you're doing that, to avoid these kinds of pains. Somebody asked about the Rad Girls. So the Rad Girls is a group of the four of us. It's Dana, Darla from, I do this every time. And her name was just popped up on here. Just a second ago. There it is. Crafty Yarn Owl with Darla. Miss Dana, Robbin, me, and Miss Amber, who is Fostering Crochet with Amber. It's the four of us. We go live every Tuesday at 12 Central, which is 10 Pacific. And it is actually, I need to change the name on there. It's actually the Rad Girls lunchtime. So it's lunch with the Rad Girls. And the idea is grab your crochet and sit and visit with us for 45 minutes. It's a very short live, 45 minutes. We're just sitting and chatting and crocheting, talking about any sales we saw that day, any little thing. If you're having problems with your project, like I am with this one, it's supposed to be an easy one I can do while I talk. No, now I got to go back to my instructions again, and things like that. So come have lunch with the Rad Girls every Tuesday. 12 o'clock Central. Of course, Miss Dana will not be crocheting because she's driving most of the time.
Hopefully I can get connected to the internet.
Yeah, that would be good. Last week was a bit of a challenge because she wasn't sitting, she was driving.
I could hear myself screaming at you over the phone.
She was not happy. At one point I said, we can have you talking over the phone, and then we decided, oh, that's not a good idea. Don't put the mad truck driver over the phone live. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. So yeah, we could all hear you.
Yes. Okay, so I have to get reworked.
What does that mean?
Means
non-truck drivers.
It means that I was overloaded. I'm overweight. I cannot do any more adjustments because I'm in the state of California, and you can only adjust so far in California. So as soon as I get this trailer into that dock door, then I'll tell you guys about my class. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, just give me a couple minutes here, and I'll get us all caught up on what I learned.
Yes. So the thing about the boppies, the thing about the nursing pillows, I was able to borrow one because one of my grands had just recently had a little. But what I had planned to do was go to one of those secondhand kiddo shops, and I can't even think of the name of one, but pretty much every city has one, and they usually have a few of those hanging around. New, they ran around $20, $25, but I didn't want to buy a new one till I saw if it did me any good. And used, I could get one in the $10 range. And but like I said, I was able to borrow one, and then I gave it back to her because they've got a new baby coming now. Yay! We've got a new great grand coming in April, and so but I know that works for me. And it did get hot sitting with that thing on my lap when it was 100 degrees outside in Texas and our air conditioning went out. It was a little toasty, but when it's chilly, it did keep me warm. So, you know how that goes. And that's give and take with everything. So, Tammy, we would really appreciate that. The cow, I've got a crochet along starting next month. As a matter of fact, Dana and I were just talking about this. I've got, let me look real fast, because I do have the first, I was going to say inspirational. It might be inspirational to someone, but that's not the right word. Informational. The first informational video is going to drop on that here in a few days, and I'm stalling because, of course, I can't find it. It's going to be, come on. When is it? Let me look in a different spot. I want to say next week, maybe the week after. Content. I've already got it loaded and scheduled. So it's going to be coming up on February. That's March. February 23rd. And it's called the Lizzie Blanket Crochet Along, the Lizzie Blanket Cow Announcement. And that's going to drop February 23rd at 8:30 a.m. February 23rd, which is not this Thursday, next Thursday. And so that's going to give you all the information about the cow. And I will, once that thing drops, I will be talking nonstop ad nauseum, because it's my very first cow and I'm super excited and super proud about it. So
I got my yarn like a couple months ago, I think.
Yes.
For that. Stylecraft Specialty K.
Which happens to be the yarn that comes with the kit, if you were interested in buying the kit. So, anywho, thanks for asking. And you may not have been asking about that, but I'm assuming you were, so that's what I'm going to tell you.
And that's what she's super excited about. So, yeah.
Super excited about.
Okay, so
yes,
my class,
super excited about it.
My class was about gauge, and there was a handout and a video that accompanied the handout. And I find that I retain more from the video, when I go to take my 10-question quiz afterwards, if I follow along with the handout. I don't know why. It's my learning style.
Visual learning.
Yeah, I'm a slow learner is what I am. But
well, you are a truck driver after all.
I know, that's all I'm qualified to do. So anyway, gauge. And now I have always advocated for swatches, testing your, the stitch pattern, the repeat in a swatch, checking for gauge. Because I tell you what, I am really bad at sizing hats. Really bad at sizing hats.
Interesting.
But yes, my hats always turn out way too big. So like this Crochet Society box that had this cute hat in it, I did post a picture of the finished project. I deleted a whole 10 rows or rounds, the top down hat, in the pattern, because it would have been too big for my head, and which means it would have been too big for Mom's head, and that was Mom's hat. So, yeah, even though I sold a lot of hats, that bun and done beanie, back a couple years ago, I really had to get to know that pattern and adjust for, gauge. So here's, um, so I had some limitations. Now, we had the video and the handout, and then we had a download of a washcloth pattern that was really a cool pattern, very scrubby. It called for an eye hook. I have no eye hooks in the truck. I have G and H. And I thought, well, this is going to be a good test for me. So the gauge, okay, so many of you know how to check gauge. You make a swatch. However, there's a certain stitch being used each row in this washcloth. So I needed to make a swatch that was like 6 inches wide and 6 inches tall, and put my gauge checker, which is 4 inches by 4 inches, count the stitches across and count the rows high. Well, it's supposed to be 12 by 22. So 12 stitches across. So because I'm, at the end of my day and I'm tired, thankfully it wasn't like a requirement to do the washcloth with the border and send it in. She does have courses where you send in your swatches. She does. So I believe so anyway, because I think that's, to get some of those certificates, graduation,
okay.
kind of thing.
Sense.
Yeah. So
I can see that.
But it wasn't like there were 2 downloads. One was the sheet that accompanied the video in the class, and the other one was this pattern that someone else of the American Crochet Association came up with. Oh. So, and interesting stitch. Okay, so I am using an H hook instead of an I. Okay. So instead of, in the 4-inch square, instead of having 12 stitches across, I had 13. And then instead of doing a whole, so many rows to come up, big enough to count, I divided that 22 by 4 and came up with 5.5. So in 1 inch, that swatch should have had, it had 5.5. I should have had 5.5 rows, and I had 4 even. So yeah, it's because I was using an H hook, and I feel like that pattern would have been pretty spot on had I bumped up to a 5.5 millimeter. But it's a good refresher for me, because even though I advocate for swatches all the time, and the more I see our good designers using swatch to figure out how big their sweater is, oh my goodness. How many stitches? Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And how they come up with the design, they figure out in their swatch how many inches, what their gauge is. Then they can determine how many stitches across and how many rows high for their sweater. And I love watching those designer videos. So, but the truth is, I've done very few swatches. Because
how many of you in here use swatches on a regular basis? And if you don't, tell me why you don't. And if you do, tell me why you do.
Good question. And let me tell you why I seldom do. I'm usually doing a blanket. Usually doing a blanket. But well, and there are times if it's a pretty complicated repeat of, like it's a pineapple stitch, or something where you have several rows in the repeat. Any lifting of the loops at the front or the back of that stitch, like we talked about last week, could drastically change the size of this blanket. I wanted to be in the ballpark, really. And so I did, when I did, this piece, with the H hook, I knew to keep my hands relaxed, and I did, and I still had very even stitches. And of course, I did not do the chainless foundation. I didn't skip ahead, I did the chain and came back with my single crochets for that first row. But I did do it into that third loop because I do like that. I don't know. It's a habit now to always go into that third loop when I'm going into a chain, like we talked about. Here's what happened. So because of this particular stitch, it makes a pretty scrubby fabric. Well, because my gauge is so much smaller with that H hook, it made it thick and stiff. Oh, yes. I can show it to you. Yeah, I will get it. I'll get it down and I'll show it to you. Make sure I didn't throw it over here. But I would do that for making a dish sponge. Because I have in the past made a sponge. I made 2 panels and brought them together, and that makes a very scrubby sponge to have there in your sink. And there's enough air going space, that cotton tends to not sour as long as you wring it out and give it some air.
Give it a good rinse and let it,
Same way with cotton dishcloths. You give them a good rinse and drape them. It takes a lot to make those sour.
Don't ball them up and throw them in the corner.
Right. But the 100% cotton, your sugar and cream, your very kitcheny, scrubby cotton. Now she used dishy cotton. Have you ever used dishy? Is it 100% cotton? I'm assuming it is.
I think it is. Is that now? What's the one that has the scrubby material built into it?
Oh, those are that's different. That's like
But do you know? I was shocked to find out that is 100% cotton, and I thought for sure that had some poly in it. I did not believe it, and it says right on there that it's 100% cotton.
Weird. Yeah, I've never used that. And I know people, like there's a particular crocheter in my little hometown in Idaho who got on Facebook and said, look, I have this, it came from Red Heart, this ball of, scrubby yarn. Anybody who wants it, come and get it because I'm throwing it away. She was not going to, I've never tried it.
I'm torn. I don't like it for a washcloth, a dishcloth, because it goes thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. And where the connection is, it tends to separate.
Oh.
But at the same time, I like the scrubby part of it built in. So,
does it scrub or does it to me, in my mind, it would be rubbery and it would grab rather than slide across and scrub. Does it grab?
I never paid that close of attention.
Yeah,
I
just like 100% cotton, really.
Yeah, I do. But
good rough cotton.
Now
Let's see if I can find that.
I have made, I used Miss, what's her name?
Salina? Angela.
I used her pattern to make the puff ball thing.
Oh yeah, the poof.
The poof. And I love it. Boy, what a great pattern, you guys. And just watch her video. It's a free pattern. The problem was I made a bunch of them for my daughter because they love those. And her problem was, she said, because of the cotton, it gets so heavy when it's wet. It gets so heavy. And I can see that.
It's very thick and kind of stiff.
Yeah.
I mean, not bad. I could use it as a very scrubby dishcloth. But I absolutely believe the designer was right on with calling for a 5.5 millimeter.
Big. I like that. That's a pretty design.
It's a great. It's a kind of spike stitch in between regular stitches.
Oh, that's pretty.
Isn't that great? I love it. And I think I like a little bit of drape
Yeah.
in a dishcloth. I don't mind a little stiffness and thickness, you know, because it's got a job to do.
Right.
But yeah, it's very pretty.
Yeah. And if you went up a hook size, you'd have that drape.
I think that, and I think I would have the gauge. Not that gauge is a big deal on a dang dishcloth, unless you're selling like sets, and your gauge is kind of important there for consistency. Yeah.
Timmy, Angela from My Precious Yarnery.
Yes, we love Angela.
We love Angela.
Yeah. So that was a great exercise in getting my head back around the math. So, you know, my gauge was 13 stitches wide where the pattern called for 12. I know that because I have more, it's because my stitches are smaller. It's because I'm using that H hook, even though I don't like a big fat sloppy stitch. That's why, you know, I refer to that video, the golden loop crochet video. You guys can search that, and talking about the lift. So, I mean, I don't want them squeaky tight, but there should be an appropriate amount of resistance, I believe. Not so you're you got to take a knife to cut open that. Yeah. But at the same time, big fat sloppy stitches. We just say no to big fat sloppy stitches. Especially when you're doing something big. You know, if you're doing a big blanket, I don't think, what is that? What is
a hat pin. Mr. is going through. We've got an old Singer sewing machine that was my great aunt Verna's, and he's going through the drawers, and he just found that.
Well, so my point was, you know, if you've got a repetitive stitch in a large project, and you've got big fat sloppy stitches, that's going to show up in a piece of fabric. It's going to be seen,
and it looks sloppy. Kim, Yearning for a Smile, you asked her, you said you weren't following. What were you not following?
Probably the gauge explanation, which I can go over again.
But, well, I don't think she needs an explanation on gauges. She's pretty.
Okay.
She's pretty high up in knowing what she's doing. So there was something about you that you said she wasn't catching.
Okay.
Her channel. She doesn't follow Angela's channel. Okay, good.
I like Angela.
She understands gauge. But now what I'm wondering is, did she explain how to correct if your gauge is off? Because that's where I fall down.
And that's
or this is what'll happen. My gauge is right on rows, but not on stitches, or I'm right on stitches, but not on rows.
And that is explained in that golden loop video.
Okay.
It is explained because if you're lifting on your loops, you're going to have a taller stitch than you do wide.
Oh.
Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? Okay. So yes, the golden loop video explains that, because yes, I would have my rows, my stitches would be way too tall, but the width of them was spot on. And it's the lifting of your loops. That golden loop video is priceless.
Yeah.
Absolutely priceless. And let me tell you, there's like an intro video to Jane Crowfoot's Fruit Garden Crochet Along in that playlist that also addresses that. She also addresses, you know, lifting your loops and getting too big of loops. And so correcting gauge, some of you may or may not know. I never want to assume that everyone here knows the same thing I do. The reason why my stitches were, you know, I had smaller stitches and shorter rows is because I was using a 5.0 millimeter hook, and the designer's gauge came with a 5.5, and that's why I was just showing this. It's a very tight. It's not tight because I was careful to keep my hands relaxed, but it is a thick, kind of a real stiff dishcloth. And if that's what you're looking for, a real scrubber, man, that pattern she gave us in that class was spot on for that. And but I do feel like the 5.0 millimeter without actually doing it with an eye hook, my guess is that my gauge would have been spot on for the designer's gauge. And the only reason why is because I have learned to not lift my loops. Sometimes, there's
something
there's
Robbin needs to work on. We figured that out last week, didn't we?
Right.
As she holds her hook straight up and down.
Yeah, so I'm working real hard at, there's going to be a little lift on each side, with your hook as you're working. But the big,
like
we get in a hurry and start doing this stuff. We're lifting those loops.
We're shoveling, not crocheting.
Yes, and so I'm learning to slow down, pay more attention, and keep my hook pretty horizontal. Now, some people, hold a pencil hold, a fork hold, and you found that there was less movement down here when you held that way. Way less. So there was less lifting.
And when I go
very
like this,
nice.
Just like this. I could not believe the difference. Absolutely could not believe the difference. Yarning for a Smile, Miss Kim. I just want to point this out. Miss Kim is my guest on Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific. She is my guest. She is very knowledgeable in all things crochet / knit / Ravelry.
Nice.
Super have her on.
Nice.
That you popped in today, and she was looking for your channel, Miss Dana. I don't know why. There it is. It just dropped. Nightbot. Nightbot. He's being. Oh my goodness, Timmy! I don't have my. Hold on.
Timmy!
Hold on.
Whoop, whoop. Super chat, Timmy!
I'm not prepared. I gotta get the.
And Max isn't laying on the pom poms. That's good. Yay!
See, I tidied up. I put everything away. Now I'm not organized. I'm too organized. I'm not ready. I don't have anything to do. Yes, I do. Okay, got
Timmy Limerow.
Put you in the drawing. Is this the right month?
Good job, girl. It's February.
Are we in February? We are in February. Okay.
Today's the 12th. It's Super Bowl Sunday, which I have to keep telling myself that because I keep forgetting.
I gotta go to work this afternoon, which means I have to put like grown-up people clothes on instead of sweat.
Oh.
Bad situation. Okay, I got you on the list. My channel, it just dropped a little bit above. It's Roaming with Rover. That's all you got to say. Roaming with Rover. And I think if you just click on the little dog's face there, and he's Max. That's Max, by the way. I think that takes you right to my channel.
It does.
Okay. I think I get you right there, Timmy. Thank you so much. That was very kind of you.
Whoop, whoop.
Karen wants to know what's the name of your book. The calendar book that I have that I just showed? Is that what you're asking about, Karen? Also, how far you allow the yarn to go up on the... Yeah, we talked about that. There's so much.
Well, and that's shaft size. So when I'm using this particular hook, that's the shaft size. And I don't have a problem because it stops.
Yeah, hers stops.
Mine stops. And I'm telling you guys, this is like a hot knife through butter, the way it glides through yarn. It is, but I want that handle. Yeah. But this is, that is so amazing. So that's a pretty consistent, I like the size of that because if you can comfortably put the head into, your stitch, with a little bit of resistance, you shouldn't have to tense up and fight it, but you should feel a little resistance when you're going into that stitch. Not, let's just make loops and yeah. So if you're concerned about tiny, your stitches may be big and loopy because that's how you crochet, and your stitches are consistent like that. If they're consistent, they're not like all different size stitches. You just got a lot of, some really big loop lifting going on. As long as that isn't being passed on.
Mhm.
You crochet how you want to crochet.
Right.
Really.
Oh, it's
There's
Miss Morgan.
Hi, Morgan! Yay! So, our concern and a lot of people's concern is, we need standards and consistency when it comes to passing this art, our fiber art, on to next generations. There should be a standard. And part of the reason for that standard isn't because somebody said it was right. It's because there's less confusion in learning the skill for newcomers.
Right.
There's enough confusion already. Well, I thought this Bella Coco version of the virus shawl was the way it's supposed to be done. What do you mean Fiber Spider does it different? What? Don't do that to me. Yeah. No, we have enough confusion. The standards help keep us on a course to become, more skilled, more experienced, more educated in our art, so that we can go off our own way if we want to. Yeah, it leads to more creativity.
It absolutely does. And how many times have you run into someone and said, "Oh, I love what you're working on. Can you show me how to do that?" And then you find out later that what you learned isn't the actual appropriate way to do it.
Right.
And there be repeated.
And if we can learn the right way to do this stuff, it isn't a matter of being correct. It's a matter of having a standard and a baseline for people to start with. And it helps promote it.
Right. What we're talking about today is the American, I say it wrong every time, the American Crochet Association, which is Salina Baca's program. I'm getting there. American Crochet Association, Salina Baca's program. But when we're talking about standards, there's the base standards for stitches and writing patterns and all of those kinds of things. And it doesn't matter what organization you follow, the standards should be the same.
Right.
The CGOA, if I'm wrong, follows the same standards. Is that correct, Dana?
Okay, it's the Craft Yarn Council is who really has set up some standards, and we as an industry have accepted that. As an authority. Right. The CGOA follows them. The American Crochet Association follows the Craft Yarn Council.
Right.
That is, here's the thing. In horse training, this happens all the time. You can set yourself up as an organization who teaches people how to train horses. And we'll give you certificates of completion and diplomas and all this kind of stuff. But anybody can claim themselves to be the authority. It's whether or not you are actually recognized in reality. So the Craft Yarn Council is our recognized, we are pretty much recognizing them as our authority. And Salina has brought forward standards to us in a way that is pretty easy to learn.
It's the same thing. I teach first aid and CPR. I've been teaching it for 25 years. I am certified through an organization. There are 3 main certification organizations in this country. 2 of them you guys all know by name. One of them probably nobody has ever heard of. But it doesn't matter because we all follow the same rules. And it's just the same thing. This main company sets all the rules and everybody follows those rules. And it doesn't matter what company you work for, or my company name is Affordable First Aid. I am licensed under these guys and we all follow these rules. And it's the same thing. So these are the standards that are set. These are the companies that are teaching those standards. And then these are all the people that are writing patterns. The wish is everybody writing patterns would be following these rules, but that's not what happens. So we're trying to get everybody out there following those same things so that it's consistent across the board. So when you buy a pattern, you know that this means this.
I can read that. Yeah. So, and here's something we're running into with, you know, designers from overseas. They have a different terminology. You know, we're going to say chain 22, chain 22. Well, they're going to say something like chain 22 times, or, you know, 22 chains. You know, they're going to switch it up.
Yes.
In their verbiage, and I'm looking at this pattern going, why didn't you just say CH22? But they don't. They do things. They have a different way of saying the same thing. And like you know, we find that even within our own country. You found that the one designer for the mystery crochet along, you know, she's got her own verbiage and her own terminology, and it makes it pretty difficult. Amazing pattern, though, an amazing mystery crochet along. And a lot of work went into that.
A lot of work. The pattern is amazing. The story is amazing. It's so fun, and
but challenging.
It's very challenging. It is very challenging. And some people are just zipping right through it. Not this people. Not this people. And I've kept up, but I'm not going to finish on time this week because it's Sunday already, and I'm only on the second row of this week's pattern, and I haven't hit the hard part yet. I am officially going to fall behind. This is the week when I officially fall behind. But the problem that I'm having, and it took
Amber.
Thank you. Amber and I struggled the first week because what we figured out is she will say 5 double crochet, 5 single crochet, double crochet increase. We had no idea what she wanted us to do. Well, what she wanted us to do was double crochet in the next 5 stitches, then 5 single crochets in the next 5 stitches, then do a double crochet increase in the next stitch. But she leaves out all those extra words.
Yeah.
So it took a while to get the rhythm of what she wanted you to do. And after many finishing of rows and counts not coming out right and pictures not matching what we were doing, and it's a mystery, so there's not a video, and
right.
Oh dear God, I'm not going to do this. It was really problematic. But once we figured out her rhythm, it was much easier.
Okay, I want to show you guys how awful the center of my acanthus is coming along for the fruit garden.
Oh, look how beautiful.
I feel like the center isn't as even and uniform as I would like it to be. But, and that's a buttermilk in the center outside of that indigo blue. And then this is the ecru offline. Yep, that's buttermilk. And you can barely tell.
That looks like cream to me.
Well, the buttermilk is not very, it's you can barely tell the difference between that and the ecru.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I can see it. Boy, it is not much different.
But I decided to roll with it and go on with my life because I went over it over and over in my head, going down the road, listening to her video on, the acanthus and this is the only one I have up to this point. I have 7 more to get up to this point before I can move on to the clementine, which I'm dying to move on to the clementine. It is so pretty. But yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at. And
let me ask you what this book was that I was using, and I didn't mean to ignore you. So this is done by Crojo. Do you remember her name? You know me in names.
Crojo Corner.
Yes,
Crojo Corner.
What's her
Crojo
name?
Corner.
It's crojocorner.com. She puts out multiple of these books. I have 2 of them. They're very, very different. I adore them. My other
project planners.
Yes, they're crochet planners. The crochet planners are fabulous. They have darling, darling covers on them. And I can't reach it. And Laura, thank you.
Yes, Laura.
Laura. And if you do not have a channel, I recommend the other book. And it's all about keeping track of all your stuff. It's fabulous. This particular book is specific for people who have channels, and it's to help you keep track of all of the stuff you're doing and expenses and planning videos. And, I was going to do all this stuff. I do not. What I end up using this for all the time, though, is the monthly, the calendar I use all the time, and I keep track of all of you guys who give me donations, and I keep track of my cal is all tracked in here, my crochet along, which the introduction is going to drop a week from this Thursday. The actual crochet along starts March 23rd. I wanted to give you guys lots and lots of time. I keep track of all of my email addresses for the people that I interact with in theory. And that's what I use this for. But because you guys see me pull this thing out every time we have a live. So that's what that is. Somebody asked me what that is.
Cool.
Saving grace for the mystery cal. Hold on, get back up here. Saving grace for the mystery cal was that she had the stitch count at the end of each row. Correct. And for me, if she didn't have that stitch count, there's no way. And Amber, I'm sort of kind of lost. I think maybe I have figured it out. And if it wasn't for the stitch count on this one, I'd have no idea. And what I end up finding that I have to do on this is, and of course I can't show you because it's a mystery, but there will be a landmark of some sort on each row. And let's say it'll say to do some kind of special stitch here. And I'll go, okay, here's where I do that special stitch. And then I have to count back the things that I got to do to get to this special stitch to see where I'm supposed to be over here. Because I don't know where I'm supposed to start anything. Because I can't tell. So I do a great deal of counting and figuring and hoping that it's doing what I'm supposed to do. So Amber, we need to talk today because I got to tell you which one I'm working on because I jumped ahead. Usually I just let Amber figure out what we're doing, but I'm ahead of her, so I jumped ahead this week. So, I got to
Amber will get you straightened out, that's for sure.
Yes, she absolutely
you non-sweet tea drinker, you.
That's right.
Yeah, Amber's not gonna like me either because I drink non-sweet tea.
I think we're 3 against 1, Miss Amber, with the Rad Girls. I think we're 3 against 1. Oh, is
the sweet tea? Hi, Bridget.
I think Miss Bridget's in here. I think there. I fixed it. Ha.
Okay, you guys. I have church in 15 minutes, so. It's pretty cool. We have these little communion cups.
Oh.
It's got my communion in there, and on top is the wafer. So I have that so I can take the Lord's Supper with everybody in my congregation.
That's nice.
via a YouTube live. And I just listen as I'm going down the road. And yeah, so I'm all set up for that. So I need to get ready for church.
Perfect. So just because, self-advertising and all that, tomorrow is Monday, which means we have Monday night bingo at 4:30 Pacific. Please, please, please join us for that. Let's put that up here. Let's do that right there. Show. Please go to, nope, not that. But I guess that's the same kind of thing. How about this one? Show. Monday night bingo.
Cool.
And then Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, we're going to have Miss Kim from Yearning for a Smile. She's going to come and be our special guest. We're super excited to meet the delightful Miss Kim.
I'll be watching.
Visit with her, and then we will have a short break, and then we will go live with the Rad Girls lunch break. Rad Girls!
Rad Girls!
And if you're lucky, we will be joined by all 4 of the Rad Girls.
I was so excited. I have been looking forward to this for weeks, and then Sacramento happened. It's like a dead zone.
She was not happy for many hours, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but I got to say, Nathaniel, I think his name was, Tier 2 technical support at Verizon. This guy's back in one of the Carolinas right now, and we chatted for like 2 hours. Totally calmed me down. He's a pretty cool guy, helped me out a lot, and it was just geography. He assured me that there's nothing wrong, that I've got, the unlimited service. There's nothing wrong with my plan. No need to try to upsell me. And that guy was great. He totally he talked the gun out of my hand. I can hear myself screaming on Robbin's phone during the Rad Girls live. I'm like, that is my voice coming over that speaker.
She was. Yeah. At one point we had said, Dana, we could have you on here. And then we voted, went, let's not put the mad truck driver live over.
No, let's not. I wasn't fit for polite company. That's for sure.
Not a good idea. Yeah. So, okay. You go get saved. And
that's a tough ask. Let me tell you.
Let's see if okay, how about this? You go get forgiven for all your sins. That's a better one. And we will, and I gotta go get dressed to go to work. Talk about being in
fun.
I'm really interested. I'm wondering whose idea it was to set up a little presentation, a student presentation in the middle of the Super Bowl. I wonder what kind of a audience we're going to get today. And the sad thing is, it's these guys it's for the choral, it's their class. It's these guys. It's for these guys that are going to school for this, and this is their final. They get their final grade based on this. So they have been working. They're getting their master's degree in this stuff, and this is their big grade. And somebody set up their presentation during the Super Bowl.
What kind of audience are you going to have?
I'm thinking not much today, because usually we get between 70 and 100 people show up to these things. And I mean, they've been practicing. And I mean, they've got these, they have to pay a pianist, and these guys are, I mean, these pianists have PhDs. These aren't just, their friend, Bubba that can play the piano.
Right.
And they've been practicing for months, and they sing for half an hour straight, and they have to present like 8 or 10 different songs. This is a big deal for them. And right in the middle of the Super Bowl. So I hope we have a decent turnout for them. I really do. No, we don't get any parents because these guys, this is a university. Their parents are across the country. Some of them come from all over the world. This is a prestigious thing. It's not just your local community college. So it's a big deal for these people. But the last one I did, we had one set of parents that was there. One set of parents drove in for it.
Wow.
So it's not just.
Well, I hope there are some non-football fans that can come fill the seats and watch all their hard work.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, it's usually the other people in their class and their friends that come and watch. We get a handful of just people off the street because it is a free performance. So we get a handful of people off the street. And it makes a good free date night for folks, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And, to be fair, they know it's Super Bowl Sunday, so they're probably going to get less of a turnout than the regular ones get. So, but yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But yeah, they couldn't even get anybody to work. And I'm like, I'll work. I don't care.
Yeah.
So anyway, alrighty, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow night for bingo and Tuesday morning, Rad Girls and Miss Kim. Super excited for everything.
Good to see you all here.
Bye-bye. I'll talk to you in a little bit, Amber. Bye-bye.